It was originally brought to us by a pair of producers who had picked up the rights to the original film. We had not seen the film yet. Had heard a ton about it from festivals, from Fantastic Fest, from a lot of places where we'd showed together, and really liked the idea of it. But I think both immediately when they said, "Are you interested in doing an American version of this?" I think we both kind of got nauseous and threw up in our mouth a little bit, and thought, oh, we're going to fall into all the traps of a bad U.S. remake. And then I brought it down to Nick's kitchen. We watched it on a laptop, and both said, "Why remake this?" And
Well, the big thing was, it was green lit. They said, we can do this in a couple months. You'll be making a movie. So once they said that, and Jim told me, "No, we can do what we want. We don't have to remake it. We can make a new one." We said, "All right, where are we going to do it? Let's set it in New Orleans." And then a couple of beers later, I said, Jim, we don't know fuck about New Orleans." So once we decided on upstate, that kind of changed things for us. And we both have an affinity to upstate New York. And then it was just looking at it and saying, okay, let's flip the chicks, flip the old man for the old lady, and see where that lands us. And so that's where we ended up.
And I was going to ask you about the tone of the film. Obviously, some of the scenes are graphic, but then some people are describing this film, as more as an art house piece, and that's why you're getting into festivals also like Cannes and some more sort of art house type film festivals. Do you want to talk about striding those two sort of worlds of genre and sort of drama?
Yeah. I think the horror genre in general is a lot more flexible than people give it credit for. Not people in this room because you're here, but there's a lot of people I think that don't realize how much you can do with it. And we were just talking 2 seconds ago about Let the Right One In. I think that's a perfect example of a film that's not really a horror film. It's doing so much else. Wow. It's doing so much else, and it's telling a coming of age story. It's telling this beautiful love story between these two kids, and it does it with this really interesting backdrop that I think really makes it pop. And I think we took that approach really, and having done 2 movies, I think after having done Stakeland, I just remember feeling like another, I don't have it in me to do another full-on action set piece every 10 minutes. Let's really do something that's going to rely on these characters, and the smaller we made it, the better. The more it focused around 3 people around a dinner table, the stronger it became, I think, and let us get away with that.
Let's open up to the floor, and we've got some questions here. Let's start over there, near 2/3 to the back. Yeah, you.
Where did you find those girls?
Where did you find the girls?
Julia Garner, the young one, the curly-haired one, was in a film called Martha, Marcy, May, Marlene that I loved, and was tonally was also an inspiration for this, mostly because it was able to get under your skin almost because it wasn't telling you much, and I loved that. And one of our producers, Andrew Corkin, had done that film, and as soon as he read the first draft of the script, he said, "What do you think about Julia Garner?" And I met her and kind of fell in love with her, and just thought, yes, you can't do this movie without her. And then Amber Childers, the older one, came along. We had somebody else cast in that role for a very long time, and then about a week before, she dropped out for scheduling reasons, and sort of left floundering, and just looked through, tons and tons of audition tapes that had been submitted at some point, and just said, this girl just popped. I think I even watched her first audition without the sound on, but she just popped. And Skyped with her over the phone, and she said, I grew up in a Mormon household. I thought, okay, done. You got the part.
We have some more hands. Any more questions? We want to throw something out over here.
Yeah, there's some really beautiful scenes that you set up there, but the one near the end with the 2 daughters on the table, hunched over their father, sort of, chewing at him. That was a fantastic image. Was that the sort of image that you built this movie around, or was there something you were aiming for?
No, I guess the question was that image of the girls hunched over the table eating their father, was that something the movie was based on? No, I'll leave it to Nick to tell you how it was written, and I'll tell you about it, how it was shot.
We wrote many versions of the ending, probably like 30. One where Doc Barrow adopts the kids. Just crazy stuff, helicopters coming in, and backhoes burying people, and nothing was working. And then I was just up early one morning and writing and said, "Look, we just got to end it at the dinner table, man." Okay, that's what I'm doing. I'm ending it. What the fuck happens here? they eat the fucking old man. And I never called Jim. You know, we have our own working thing, but I get up at 4 or 5 in the morning. It was pretty early. I never call him. And I got so excited I called him. And I said, hey, man, I got the ending. He said, what the fuck? They eat the old man. It's like silence. I said, you hear me, man? They eat the old man. And then he said, oh, fuck, yeah! That was it. And that's how the ending happened.
And when we shot that, I think, you know, it freaked people out in the script stage, and I think, you know, and I didn't want to kind of spoil the tone that we had of like the reserved thing and the restrained thing up until then. So I think it was scripted that it was all going to be in shadows, that Doc Barrow was going to be, I had it in my mind it was all going to be, the experience was not us watching them, the experience was going to be Doc Barrow watching these two girls sort of come of age in a way and sort of fulfilling their father's destiny of eating him. So it was all going to be in shadows, and I think we were going to stay under the table. And we did the first take, and the girls were terrified. It was like the third week in, and Julia from day one was like, "How are we going to do it? How are we going to do it?" And she was freaked out. And they went for it, and they were so into it, and they had so much fun. And we just shot in this roving dolly that it was like, I remember leaning in and just being like, "Scratch the shadow shot. Like this is the scene right here. It was beautiful."
I was going to mention something that I was reading somewhere that one of you is more the gore hound, is that you, Nick, and one of you is a bit more reserved, or you both go for the bloody scenes.
I go over the top.
And Jim pulls me back.
Yeah. And a lot of times it's the budget thing, you know, a lot of times it's, all right, I'd love to do that too, but what are we going to be able to afford? And in this one, it was, yeah. And, you know, what was nice is, you know, there was a lot of scenes early on where we did go for that. You know, there was a lot of scenes where you prepared the body, and there was a certain thing that was going to tear the rib cage open and do all this stuff. And at a certain point, it was coming along, and as the characters got better and the story got better, I remember reading the script and saying, you know what, I think we don't need this shit. This is kind of like this is kind of the thing you'd expect. So what's the way that we can not do it? I remember saying, you know, that preparing the body scene should be like the baptism montage in The Godfather. And I remember, okay, I got it. I know exactly what you need. And then he just went away, and then that was born out of that.
You got some more questions? Anybody near at the back? I'll go over here.
Yeah, the soundtrack. Can you talk about that a bit?
Sure. The score or the sound, the songs in the film, everything. Yeah, it's actually two composers, crazily enough, which I'm really excited about because to me it feels like a contained score. But we had one guy on. We sent the first draft of the script. We sent to Jeff Grace, who had scored Stakeland, and I love him, and he started working on themes then, and we were actually playing a lot of those themes on set. If there's a scene that didn't have dialogue, we just play this on speakers, we just play the score to a silent scene, and it helped a lot. And I think really got everyone sort of into the tone of it. And then we got into Sundance, and all of a sudden we had like 2 weeks, you know, to score the entire film. So we actually brought another guy in, Phil Mossman from LCD Sound System, who does all electronic music, and Jeff, who does these string quartets. And basically they both went at it, and we figured out who was doing what, you know, the closest, and merged the two together. And then the stuff that's on the radio and that kind of stuff is just all, you know, I think we both have an affinity for, you know, nostalgic country music and stuff that, you know, doesn't pop up in horror movies. I hate the sort of stereotype that all horror films have to have this like heavy metal gore, you know, a hard rock soundtrack always to make it a horror film. I think things that are, sometimes it's the pretty subtle, quiet stuff that I think is creepier and scarier.
Looks like you have a bit of a shaky hand.
Yes.
Have we got some more questions? Any more hands? Over there, though.
There's about 6 or 7 big mounds of rocks in the back of the lot just before Anders died. Is that involved with anything?
Yes, there was some 6 or 7 mounds of rocks in the scene. That was the old graveyard that they went to. That was our version of a Catskill Mountain old graveyard. It was not digging, but piling rocks on top of graves. So yeah, symbolic of that.
I want to ask you guys a question because I was hearing that you've obviously taken this film on tour. The genre crowd has obviously embraced it. Some of the art house crowd has, but I heard you played not Cannes, but another smaller French film festival where you had a very interesting, different experience. Do you want to guys talk about that?
Yeah, we shot another film in July and wrapped that film, basically slept a day and flew to the Deauville Film Festival in France, and you know, that's where, like, you know, we were in the slot that Beast of the Southern Wild had played the year before, and it's pretty much, it's all the Sundance movies that are going to go on to get the obligatory Oscar nods, and somehow we got in that slot, and so I walked into a theater that was about 4 times the size of this theater. It was jam-packed, and it was all upper class bourgeois French folks. A lot of salmon-colored sweaters wrapped around their necks and boat shoes, and they were into the film for the longest time. And I thought, you know, I haven't seen this movie in a little while. I'm going to sit and watch it with this crowd. And that scene at the end happened, and half the crowd stood up and just started hissing and booing and shouting. And the distributor was translating into my ear. They said, like, out with the director, out with the director. That guy says, fuck the director. That guy says he never wants to see another film from you again. And then the other half of the audience cheered and applauded and stood up and basically gave it a standing ovation for the last 3 minutes into the credits while people stormed out, and they actually waited for us in the lobby and yelled at us. But that's beautiful. I love it. I love that people love it, and I love that people hate it.
You're not going to have that here. You're going to have a lot of fans here. But I'm sure it was quite an experience, a horror story on its own.
Yeah.
We got a